Morning, everybody. Before we get started, I want to just remind you of a few things. One, Family Matters Parent Training and Information Center is not a legal service agency, and we do not provide any type of legal advice or representation. So no information I share with you during this presentation today should be considered as a substitution for legal advice. This presentation was also developed under a grant given to us from the U.S. Department of Education. However, please do not consider any type of federal endorsement for our program. Today we're going to talk about embedding Charting the LifeCourse, or CtLC, into advocacy, transition, and family-centered support. My name is Abby Mars, and I'm a transition facilitator and a Charting the LifeCourse ambassador here at Family Matters Parent Training and Information Center. Today we're going to discuss how we use Charting the LifeCourse framework and principles to guide our work with families, students, schools, and professionals across the state of Illinois. We will begin by talking about who we are and what we do as a parent center. Then we will review the foundations of Charting the LifeCourse, often called CtLC. And most importantly, we'll discuss how FMPTIC embeds the framework into everything we do, from advocacy support to transition planning and student-centered IEP work. I also want to clarify, while several FMPTIC staff are trained Charting the LifeCourse ambassadors, we are not a part of the LifeCourse Nexus organization. And we do not consider ourselves experts. We simply value this framework and use it to help create more student-centered and family-centered supports. So a few objectives today. By the end of the presentation, you should have a better understanding of both Charting the LifeCourse framework and how it can be used in a real-world educational advocacy and transition planning. We'll explore how person-centered thinking can strengthen family engagement, improve collaboration, and support students to become active participants in their own planning processes. We also hope participants leave with practical ideas on how they can use this in schools, home, agencies, and transition programs. Family Matters Parent Training and Information Center is a federally funded PTIC, or Parent Training and Information Centers, and we serve families, self-advocates, students, and educators and other professionals across the state of Illinois. Our role is to help families understand educational systems, disability-related supports, advocacy rights, and transition services. We provide information, training, and one-to-one support to families and youth with disabilities. One important part of our work is helping families feel empowered and confident in advocating for their child's needs while still promoting collaboration and relationships with schools and community agencies. Charting the LifeCourse is a person-centered framework that helps individuals and families think about what a meaningful life looks like. It encourages planning based on strengths, preferences, relationships, and community inclusion, rather than focusing only on deficits or services. CtLC is designed to support individuals across the lifespan, including education, employment, independent living, relationships, and community participation. One of the reasons FMPTIC values this framework is because it naturally aligns with family-centered and student-centered practices. One of the most powerful aspects of CtLC is its focus on possibility and inclusion. The framework assumes that all people deserve opportunities to participate fully in life in their communities. This includes meaningful relationships, employment opportunities, education, recreation, and self-direction. The framework also reminds us to look beyond disability labels and instead focus on strengths, goals, and quality of life. One important principle within the Charting the LifeCourse framework is the idea of the 3 buckets of support. CtLC reminds us that people and families need more than just formal services to live a good life. Support can be organized into 3 major categories or buckets. The first bucket is discovery and navigation. This includes information, education, advocacy skills, and tools that help people understand systems, make informed decisions, and sometimes families do not need services right away. They simply need accurate information or help understanding their options. The second bucket is connecting and navigating. connecting and networking. This involves relationships, connections with others who have shared experiences, and families often benefit from peer support, support groups, mentorships, family organization, or simply talking to someone who understands their journey. The third bucket is goods and services. These are more traditional supports people often think about first, such as therapy services, special education supports, transportation, respite care, or assistive technology and financial assistance. The CtLC framework emphasizes that many systems focus almost entirely on that green bucket, but the goods and services. However, families often need support in all three areas to truly succeed. At FMPTIC, we use the principle often in our work. Sometimes the most powerful support we can provide is helping a family understand the process, connect with another family, or build confidence in advocacy, not just helping them have access to formal services. The framework helps us to think more holistically and keeps our work family-centered and student-centered. CtLC includes several practical tools that help individuals and families organize information and plan for the future. The one-pager profile helps summarize strengths, preferences, and supports and needs. The trajectory tool helps identify desired outcomes and things people want to avoid. And the integrated support star helps people think broadly about supports, not just paid services, but also about service relationships, technology, community supports, and personal strengths. These tools help create conversations that are more meaningful and person-centered. At FMPTIC, we embed Charting the LifeCourse principles into our advocacy work with families. For example, if a parent contacts us because their child is being removed from general education settings, we can help guide the conversation beyond placement alone. We may ask what helps the student succeed, what environments bring joy and connection, how does the student contribute to their classroom and community. This approach helps families advocate for meaningful inclusion and appropriate supports under FAPE, the free and appropriate public education requirement under IDEA. Many families know what they want for their child, but struggle to organize these thoughts into educational planning conversations. CtLC tools can help families prepare for IEP meetings, transition discussions, and placement conversations. For example, a one-pager profile might help explain students' strengths and sensory needs. A trajectory tool may help families identify long-term goals and concerns. These tools do not replace the IEP process, but they can strengthen participation and communication. CtLC is not just something we use during one-to-one advocacy. We also embed the framework into our presentations, workshops, and educational materials. This helps ensure that our trainings remain student-centered and family-centered rather than system-centered. We focus heavily on self-determination, collaboration, and empowering individuals to participate in decision-making. In Illinois, transition planning must begin at age 14 and a half, and this means students become active members of the IEP team. Unfortunately, many students do not fully understand the transition process or their own IEP. Some students feel disconnected, confused, or reluctant to participate. This is one reason FMPTIC developed our student-centered approach called Putting the I in My IEP. Through our Putting the I in My IEP approach, FMPTIC works directly with transition-aged students. We help these students understand their disability, learn about accommodations, explore goals, identify strengths, and practice self-advocacy. We want students to understand that these plans belong to them and should reflect their goals, interests, and preference. These tools can help students actively engage in planning. Students often use these tools to personalize their IEPs, their 504 plans, their college plans, their employment goals, and their independent living plans. The framework helps students understand their supports and identify what success looks like for them personally. It is important to clarify that CtLC is not another compliance document or required education plan. Instead, it's a framework that helps make existing plans more meaningful and individualized. It helps ensure that students' voice remains centered in the process. When students and families feel heard, planning becomes more effective, students become more engaged and more confident in speaking for themselves. Families feel more empowered, and schools often gain a clear understanding of what truly matters to the student and the family. We encourage you to visit the LifeCourse Nexus website to learn more directly from the creators of the framework and explore the many tools and resources available. We also encourage participants to explore resources from the National Technical Institute Center on Transition, also known as INTACT. INTACT provides family-based resources and technology assistance focused on improving transition outcomes for students and youth with disabilities. Their material on person-centered planning, student engagement, and transition practices align closely with the student-centered approaches we discussed today. Thank you again for joining us. If you'd like more information about how FMPTI uses the Charting the LifeCourse principles in advocacy, transition planning, or student-centered supports, please reach out to us. We would also be happy to discuss consultation opportunities or training requests. I have shared a QR code here on the screen. You can scan that QR code and request a one-to-one appointment with an educational support coach, or you may contact our office by the other options listed on your screen. Have a great day.